Hey guys, I'm gonna do part two now. We're gonna rip the bottom end apart. Do the same as I did on the first video. I'll do some video and talking, and then I'll do a bunch of it in time lapse just to shorten up the video. I know the first video got a little longer and I wanted it to be, so I'm gonna try to keep this part two a minimum. Just don't want to make the teardown videos too long. So I just got it up on the hoist right now, draining the oil out of it. When I pull them out myself personally, I usually drain the oil before I take them out. But anyways, make sure if you're bringing an engine to a machine shop, if you're bringing them short block, long block, whatever it may be, drain the oil out of it, because it is a pain to have to drain the oil out of it, especially if, depending on how they have set up, being that we're in the midst of moving stuff around and the shop's a disaster at the moment. We don't have our disassembly bench set up, but I prefer, it's way easier if it's already drained. No coolant, no oil, best of your ability. So anyway, so we're gonna strip this stuff off the side here, and then we'll get the rest of the stuff off this side, the oil filter housing, oil cooler, air compressor, motor mount, all that stuff, pull the clutch off and stuff. So I will, I'm gonna put this on time lapse, and I will get back to you guys if I got some tips or whatever that I wanted to do. But for the most part, this stuff's pretty straightforward. It's just ripping nuts and bolts out. So we'll talk to you in a bit.
All right guys, got her in the high speed mode here. I'm just pulling tap cover off. Not really rocket science for getting that off. It's just a bunch of 10 mil headed bolts. I think it's 6 of them, 5 or 6 of them. Just trying to do the voiceover thing. I've never done the voiceover before, but we'll give it a whirl on this one. Pull the motor mount bolts off. There's 3 15 mil bolts on that. Your starter is 10 mil 12 point. It's easy to use a ratchet wrench if you have a ratchet wrench. Now on to the pressure plate. They're 3/8 bolts. Not keeping it, going in the scrap bin. That's where I was going with it. Same with the flywheel. Will be going in the scrap bin. So bell housing adapter, 15 mil bolts on that. These ones are 8 for your rear oil housing. And there's a couple oil pan bolts across the bottom. And they're all 10 mils. Pull them off. And then your bracket for your P-pump, which is, depending on the truck, some of them are different ones, but some are Torx, some are not. AC compressor, 13 mil. Your 13 mil on your water outlet, and then depending on which engine, some are 17 mil and some are 15 mil. There again, doing the motor mount, 15 mils, and then oil filter housing and oil cooler, they're 10 mils, and the one is easier to use a 10 mil ratchet if you're doing it. That just pulled the rest of the oil pan bolts off. Lots of times we do this on the hoist like that, or we'll use it on the engine crane just so it's easier to hang there. Doing your pickup tube, it's all just 10 mil bolts.
All right guys, so I got all that stuff ripped off. I got it pulled off the hoist. I'm gonna pull the camshaft, the oil pump out, and then we'll pull all the connecting rod bolts out, pull the pistons out, and then we'll pull the front timing case off, and then we'll pull the crankshaft out. Not that this is really rocket science, it's just there again, nuts and bolts. So I'm gonna put it back on time lapse, and if I find anything, actually I guess I should maybe touch base on, I've done a couple videos on killer dowel pin stuff. So there's your killer dowel pin on these. You can actually see where this one's actually started to move a little bit, sticking out a little bit. So you want to rectify that. But when I go to put it back together, I'll show you what we do to stop them from coming out. And anyways, put you back on time lapse.
All right, just rolling it over so you can get access to pulling the cam retainer bolts out and the oil pump. They're all 13 mil. Pulling camshaft, pretty easy to do. These are 10 mil bolts on the front timing case. There again, just marking the rod caps there, and these are 12 mils. You want to crack them loose with a ratchet and then use the impact on them and pull them out. And just rolling it around, get access to all the different ones, and like I said, marking everything. So, and just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Obviously, until I get to that number 5, then I had issues with that one, which is to be expected, but just going through. Just banging out they're 23 mil. For these ones is 14 mil studs, pulling the caps off so I can get the crankshaft out of there. Just walk it out of there. Pull a few of the bearings out there. It's hard to see in the time lapse, but and you can see the number 5 piston. This definitely wasn't, usually they're pretty easy to come out, but that one had some shrapnel stuck to the cylinder walls and the piston's in rough shape, so just making sure I'm not doing any more damage that's already there. So soak it down with some lube. Lube is always your friend. And you see, beating on it away. It comes out here pretty soon. There she goes.
Okay guys, got the thing all ripped down. Had a bit of an issue getting that number 5 piston out, but I kind of figured that might be the case. Had to beat on it pretty good, but cleaned it up a little bit, but got her out anyways. And that rod I wouldn't reuse anyway, so there's definitely lots of contamination, bearing material and dirt floating around in there. So the engine was definitely at the end of its life regardless. Main bearings don't look too bad, a little bit of dirt. I went through them, but there's the bad one. She's pretty haggard. But rod bearings, other than the contamination that went through, which doesn't surprise me, from the piston, and then probably, I'd imagine, lack of oil changes on top of that. Crankshaft doesn't look bad, so that's cool. But anyways, so that's the rest of the teardown on that. Something that I did want to note is that when you're ripping these things down, there again, if you're sending it to your machine shop, you want to take everything off. Something you do, you want to pull the bearings out, but you want to send your main caps and main bolts, because the shop will need those for 2 reasons: to check your main bore, and then also to hold it in the hone and or boring bar. So make sure you send those. And then you want to pull out, or your machine shop probably will. We always pull them out and clean them, but this passage, which is the oil passage, there's 2 plugs that go in there. You would have seen me maybe in the video pulling them out, but there's one right there. Just a little frost plug. There's one on this side, one on that side. Common rails, some of them have 3 to take out. Really, more than anything, you guys would have seen me in the video there again. I mark the, these ones are actually numbered anyway, but I marked the rods, the caps to the rod, so you know which ones are which, and then you don't have to keep track of it while you're pulling stuff apart. And like I said, when you have a failure like this, I personally would never reuse that rod, so it doesn't matter. I had to beat on it, but I would personally never reuse that rod, because pretty good chance you'll have a failure and the bushing going to be no good likely anyway. So Anyways, we're gonna wrap it up on the teardown side of things. We'll get this thing, we'll get it all washed up. Actually, I guess I'll show you. Maybe I'll show you the crankshaft. The crankshaft doesn't look too bad. I think it might polish out, but we'll see when we get it washed and measured and stuff. So, anyways, I'll get another one up here as soon as I can after we get everything washed and show you guys checking all that stuff. All right, till next time.